Gun control in America is rooted in racism. That's right. The modern gun control movement is just today's version of the exact policies used to keep firearms out of the hands of freed slaves after the Civil War. Like we showed you last episode, gun control doesn't harm the powerful, connected, protected people who push for it. It's always been about controlling a segment of the population. And what better way to maintain dominance over an ethnic group than to ensure they're disarmed? Don't believe me? Keep watching.
Gun control has absolutely nothing to do ideologically with the control of firearms. If you do even a most cursory look at history between guns and gun ownership, you will find that without question, gun laws were created to restrict gun ownership from certain classes of people.
Long before the revolution, long before the drafting of the Second Amendment, laws were passed in the various colonies in what is now the United States to take away guns from minorities.
The first gun control laws in America start in 1620 in Virginia, when the legislature enacts a law saying, don't let black people have guns. And that's been sort of the key theme of American gun control for centuries ever after.
In the famous Dred Scott opinion, Justice Taney makes it clear that one of the reasons blacks should not be treated as equal citizens is that if they are, they will enjoy the right to keep and bear arms wheresoever they go.
It wasn't that they said the Second Amendment doesn't apply to these people. It was, they're not considered people. Because if they're considered people, they would have the right to own firearms.
Even though the slaves were freed by the 13th Amendment, some states still prohibited black people from being armed.
And so you get a whole spate of state-level laws, either explicitly barring African Americans from enjoying their civil rights, or doing so cleverly. For example, by restricting what guns are available, maybe to those who served in the Confederate Army. Well, we all know who served in the Confederate Army and who didn't. You do the math.
It was designed as a tool, in the words that they used, to prevent any reprisals against former slave owners.
You know, America's first domestic terrorist organization was the Ku Klux Klan.
And individuals who were probably local government officials who would ride on horses throughout the black community to discourage people from not only owning firearms, but from also engaging in other civic duties such as voting.
I can't think of anything more simplistic than the idea of how do you terrorize a group of people who are armed? You really can't. So what do? You do everything in your power to disarm them in every way.
If you read Ida B. Wells in the 1890s, she makes it very clear that the men who got away from the lynch mobs were the men who were armed. And in fact, she says that a Winchester rifle should hang in pride of place in any Afro-American home.
You can't lynch people who are armed. You can't burn crosses in the yards of people who are armed. So they really worked hard to make sure that blacks who were free couldn't buy and own firearms, because then they could defend themselves.
It's underreported, but we all know Rosa Parks for her bravery on the bus. But Rosa Parks used to sit on her porch with her grandfather with a shotgun in her hands in case the Klan came onto her property and attempted to kill her and her family purely because they were black.
Our history is that we have always utilized and exercised our right to bear arms because it's been life or death.
So the 14th Amendment came along after the 13th and said, these rights belong to everybody. And you can't do this on the basis of, well, we got a state law that says you can't arm newly freed slaves.
When a criminal starts misusing me, I am going to use whatever is necessary to get that criminal off my back.
What is there to prevent a group such as the Black Panthers from walking right into the governor's office?
As of today, very little. We hope to improve that situation in the next couple of days.
All the way up until the 1968 gun law, you have basically attempts to disarm black people.
The 1968 Gun Control Act is an attempt to stop poor people from buying guns, poor people who were disproportionately black.
So you have these laws that were written in a race-neutral way, but were in fact aimed only at black people and enforced only against black people.
You have no right to take my gun away from me. You don't know the Constitution, right?
Sure we do. We're well aware of the Constitution.
The so-called Saturday night special bans. These firearms, although they did not have fine workmanship and that they were inexpensive, they were still available to be used to defend yourself and to defend your home. And one of the most interesting things about these laws that were put on the books to discriminate against black people is that these are the common anti-gun laws that politicians this very day in the year 2016 try to adopt and to prevent certain people from owning a firearm.
Persons wishing to purchase ammunition first acquire a permit, then pass an extensive background check.
And it requires gun owners to present themselves to police for a background check, photographing, and fingerprinting.
So, yeah, I think there's a racist component in the existing gun control movement, but they don't say that openly because you can't say things like that.
And so the more that people in my community have heard about our history and know about our history, the more that gun control has been shown and proven to be racist policies that have continued to keep people in our community down.
I don't by any stretch of the imagination believe that gun control has kept the black community safe. And the reason why I don't believe that is the same reason why I don't think gun control has kept the white community safe. It just doesn't keep anyone safe. If I'm a single parent mother and I can't afford a car, I have to take the bus. Not only that, I have to work 2 jobs, so I'm coming home late at night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning by myself. I'm getting paid in cash. People know I'm getting paid in cash. So now I have to get on the bus and then have to get off the bus at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and then walk home in a bad, shitty neighborhood, knowing that people know that I have cash on me? Come on, man.
There's a reason why in Chicago now we're seeing a record number of minorities inside the most violent neighborhoods applying for their concealed carry permits to finally try and put an end to criminals running their streets.
Why would you limit someone's ability to protect themselves in that environment? I just don't get it.
In 2010, when the Second Amendment was finally incorporated to the states, as was the intention of the 14th Amendment in the mid-1860s, it was a black man, Otis McDonald, who brought the case.
There were so many people in the city, so many people in the state that's being victimized by gun laws that only apply to the law-abiding citizens. How can that be right? It can't be right.
Great guy. I consider him one of my personal heroes. You know, someone who lived in an urban environment. In his case, we're talking about the city of Chicago. You know, he's been there for a while and was a fixture. And he just realized that it was not safe.
McDonald says his neighborhood has changed, more crime. He's been broken into 3 times, and he's long since concluded that the gun ban is a bust.
The gangbangers and drug dealers were taking over my neighborhood. They were taking over me, literally, and I was being threatened.
I live in a bad environment. I want a gun to protect myself, but the laws in this place won't let me do that.
And he had to fight Lisa Madigan and everybody else in Chicago for that right to do it. He's a civil rights hero, and he gets none of the accolades for being such.
Like, we had to go to court for that. Like, we had to go to the Supreme Court to let somebody own a gun in their own house to protect themselves because they live in a bad environment. That had to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Where in the world does that make any sense?
The racist roots of gun control have been so well hidden by the mass media and public education system that you've probably never heard any of that before. But it's the truth. The tender-hearted do-gooders of the contemporary movement are still serving that same racist end. This isn't a minor, uncomfortable truth about American gun control. It's the one fact that discredits the movement entirely.
Yo, real quick before you go, just want to let you know that for the remainder of 2019, I'm going to be giving away a bunch of awesome products, and I'm going to be doing this every single month.
So if you want to learn more about how to sign up so you can potentially win some awesome products, hit the link in the description section and learn. All right, folks. Holla.